Dave, tell me about movies. And you had an idea where we could talk about movies that are absolutely undeniably fantastic, like 2001's Bandits. And yes, that is the best movie in the world ever made, and nobody should feel bad about it.
Thanks for the lead in the lies, Sam. I really like just completely bamboozling and misleading our subscribers. Subscribe to our Patreon at
Patreon.
My thought is that we do talk about a lot of good movies, and we talk about a lot of bad movies as well, but usually in the context of them being bad. Now, what I want to talk about, maybe, and what I want to cover a bit this year, 2025, big quartercentennial, if that's a word, quartennial,
quadrupennial. Okay, go on.
Quadrupennial. Yeah, we're gonna kneecap the century. Yeah, absolutely, we are. That's a great word, Sam. Note that down.
I just made it up. Right now.
And what I wanted to talk about maybe is kind of like, we all have these movies that are unabashedly bad movies, like not well made, bad production values, performances are so. Like maybe there's some really bad CG, but not cult classics, I should say. There's a lot of like movies that have retroactively become like, oh, that's actually pretty good, and things like that.
Yeah,
I mean movies that are bad. That
like bad movies,
like you just love.
Just poorly reviewed.
A good example of a movie we've watched, which I would say is a guilty pleasure, and I have a reveal of my ultimate guilty pleasure, which I can't wait for your live on-screen reaction. A good example would be National Treasure, which I think was one of our first inaugural episodes, which is a bad, stupid movie that makes absolutely no sense. The leaps of logic in that movie, just the general, like the whole plot of that movie is insane. Nick Cage's performance is mad, and I fucking love it. I cannot get enough of that movie. I would watch it right now. In fact, I might watch it later on. Yeah. That's what I mean. It's kind of like a, not even so bad it's good, just bad, but in that way that just vibes with your soul, and you can just watch it. Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting topic, isn't it? Because it's also quite challenging, because I find that if I like a movie, then I've got lots of good reasons why I like it, and I think it's trying to get to that point. There's a sweet spot that you're identifying of, it's not a good movie, but I would sit and watch it, and that's. But one thing that comes to mind, and I think this is probably quite a good one. Batman Forever, is kind of.
Please, Sam. Can I get some popcorn while I sit back and watch you and try and tell me Batman Forever is like one of your
I'm not saying it's a good movie, no, but this is the point. And
is that
this
the one
is
with the Batman credit card?
Yes, Holy Rusty Metal Batman.
No, actually, you know what? I'm kind of with you. If you put that on, imagine, Sam, you're in a world, and again, younger listeners, you'll have to ask your great-great-grandparents about this. But do you remember when you used to like flick through the channels to see what's on, right? If Batman Forever's on, it's half an hour in, I'm not turning it over.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I'm not saying
I might wait for the ad break until I find what I actually want to watch.
But there's a certain je ne sais quoi about that. I think that kind of gets to what you're saying, is it's not good, but you know what? Like, it's Channel 5 and it's 10 o'clock at night and it's 2002. You don't have any other options. What else are you going to do? You're going to watch it with adverts. It's going to take 3 hours. So I think there is something that kind of gets to. So maybe that's one for me. I don't know if that exactly hits it, but it's close. Another one
that springs to mind is Beverly Hills Cop 3. Which is
that's
the
good.
Worst one. But
because 1 is
like,
great, 2 is not good,
good.
And 3, no, I don't. 2 is, but 3
1 is great, 2 is pretty good, 3 is rubbish, but in a very fun way.
3 is just diabolically bad. George Lucas cameo included. All of it is.
No, it's fun. It's bad in a fun way. It's not so bad it's good. It's bad in a very watchable, fun way.
Well, but I don't know.
Wild West, the Will Smith movie, right? Terrible movie. I've seen it 45 fucking times.
I just don't know. That's a staggering.
What I'm trying to get at is guilty pleasure, Sam. It's not necessarily like your favorite movie, because again, I think you are an intelligent, discerning person who knows what they like. Usually because of good reason. Yes. Usually the movies you like are, admittedly, like fucking critical darlings, obviously. I'm just
I'm a very discerning man. Yeah, so
exactly.
What about any movie made by Steven Seagal. What about that? What about Hard to Kill? Because that's a
this is a
terrible...
weird confession. I don't know if I've ever seen a Steven Seagal movie.
Oh, we have to do it.
I think he's a guy I only know through memes.
I
mean, Jean-Claude Van Damme is a good comp though. Of like most of his movies.
Oh, Jean-Claude Van Damme is like the fucking...
Like Bloodsport isn't a good movie. It's fucking great though. It's not good. No. It's fantastic though.
Van Damme is Oscar is some kind of... Like, it's just a completely different echelon compared to Steven Seagal. Like, he's the Laurence Olivier of compared to Steven Seagal. I mean, we are really pushing. He's so far.
We should get one on the docket then. I think we should do a Steven Seagal movie because I just have it. It's just something that for some reason
he's just an evil, like
Russian,
pro Putin weirdo. That it's just staggering. But that's one I would say. One that we've done already, I think, and you might like. I love. A lot of the Bond movies are kind of in this category for me. GoldenEye, we did that, and I think we basically said
good.
is a good movie. But I can completely understand why someone would say that's terrible. Why do you like that? And I'd be like, I know, but I do. A good example would be the Timothy Dalton ones are very bad. Very bad.
Die Another Day is very bad, but very watchable.
So stupid. So fucking stupid, those movies. I was watching a clip of that the other day, and it's just so
James
stupid.
Bond, actually, Sam, you've really fucking nailed this. James Bond is the ultimate example because all of those movies are stupid and embarrassing. Maybe the Daniel Craig ones
Casino Royale gets there,
all
but
of the old movies are embarrassing and stupid. Oh, the man with the golden gun. He's murdered my girlfriend and painted her gold.
They even painted over the back, because isn't there a bit in that movie where they paint over everywhere so her skin can't breathe, and that's the thing that kills her? Usually they leave a little patch. They leave a little patch on the back. Isn't that what they do? God Almighty, we need to watch these movies. They're
Sam,
terrible.
That's Buddy Epson from The Wizard of Oz. I think you're crossing the streams here.
I don't know. I can't.
The original.
Remember.
This is boring as
no,
shit.
I know.
The original actor who was
cast
cast as the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz couldn't actually do the role because of that very reason, because they painted him in this fucking like silver
lead paint,
lithium paint
in 1930.
So I think that's what you're confusing. I'm not sure that's a canon event in the James Bond film.
Right, hold on, because this is a Ramblecast. I'm going to Google things live. Man with a golden gun. Man with a golden gun. Painted woman. Here we go.
Don't click the Pornhub link.
Yeah. And the myth of Bond's girl.
Porn.
No, I'm on the BBC Culture website. Many think Goldeneye should have died during the filming playing God history. Oh. This is fascinating. So it's the actress. Many think Goldfinger actress Shirley Eaton died during the filming after being painted gold. But this is true. In the first episode of Debunked, Christian Blaver takes a look. And basically, it's harder to verify the actress in question Shirley was still alive. Click the button to find out. Well, fuck you, BBC Culture. We're never going to find out. Anyway, I don't know how. I don't know how we got there.
James Bond's a great example, Sam, and we should do some more of those because we've done quite a few. I think we've done the Jaws one, the one in space, the silly space one, which is
we've
the silliest.
We've done some of them, and I think we eventually. I don't want to prioritize this because there's so many other movies we could be watching, but we could do all of them. I think there's a lot of movies there we could go through. That'd be quite fun. Maybe in like 40 years when we've done all the best pictures, we could do all the Bond movies, and there'd be 40 more to do as well. Another one. Kind of think that Star Wars Episode 1 sits in this category. I know it's bad, and you are right to say that it has a bit of a cult thing now, but a lot of that's the meme.
Oh yeah, I and everyone on the internet loves that movie for all the wrong reasons.
But
not because it's a good movie, but because
I think it's the best
vein.
I think it's the best prequel movie, and we've argued about this before, and we'll argue about it again. I think it's the best prequel movie because it's a self-contained story that isn't anything to do with Adrian Christensen being angry.
Why is that excuse valid when you're talking about The Phantom Menace and not valid when I'm talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark?
because I don't think that's an applicable argument to why Last
Oh, but
Crusade,
it's like a self-contained story that doesn't take place as a
just
part
like
of the Missouri.
just like Last Crusade is, just like Last Crusade is.
We can't.
No,
we
no,
cannot.
I'm sorry. Here we go. If you want to have it, if you want to go into it, you're saying that I'm arguing that it because Last Crusade that
No,
Last
all I
Crusade
was
is
doing,
not a
Sam, was
self-contained movie.
repeating the words that you'd said about a different set of movies.
I don't think that's an accurate
now,
portrayal.
I think I'm going to accept episode 1, The Phantom
Okay,
Menace,
thank you.
as
Thank you.
to give its full title, as a guilty pleasure, because I think that enjoying that movie as a good movie is psychotic. And that's kind of what we're going for.
I
here.
do like it though. Pod racing.
I think
Now, this is
genuinely
pod
enjoying
racing.
that movie is a sign of mental illness. So that's a good example of the kind of thing we're talking about. I mean, there are guilty pleasures come and go, though, don't they? I used to really, really love Love Actually. I don't know why. There was just something about it that that I enjoyed. There was just something like optimistic, and the music maybe, and the vagueness, the fuzziness of the whole story. And then I read an article about it. Some feminist writer on the internet, an article about the depictions of relationships in it, and I was like, "Oh, this is indefensible. This is a terrible movie.
This is absolutely toxic, utterly toxic. No one should act like this, and yet people do because they think it's great. Yeah,
And it's ruined it for me. So that's off my guilty
off the
pleasure list. That's not something I would put on.
Before you tell me your final one, before you tell me
You're going to be so disappointed in me.
well,
generally.
absolutely. I'm sure I always am. My ultimate guilty pleasure is an episode that a movie we've already done for an episode. It is, of course, the movie I mentioned at the very start of this. It's 2001's Bandits. I love this movie, Dave. I love this movie with my heart and soul. I don't know why. There's something about it that just clicks. Just the whole experience, the music, the acting, the performances, the whole kit and caboodle is one of those movies for me that just lands perfectly every single time. And I will sit and watch it. I could sit and watch it back to back. I love that movie. And yet, despite even what I may have said on that episode, I kind of know it's bad. I know that it's not a movie that stands
not
up.
perfect. I think it's a good movie, though. I will push back on it as a guilty pleasure a little, because again, if you look at our episode, I don't think it's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I do think it's fine, though. I think
there's a lot of poor decisions.
Off a lot of what it sets up.
Yeah.
It's reasonably well plotted and constructed. It stars 3 absolute A-list celebrities doing good performances. I think there are worse places you can go. And those places are, and please don't just immediately kick me out of your life.
Oh, God.
Those places are 2004's Van Helsing.
Oh my God.
I don't know what it is, right? There's just something about this movie, and it's flawed. It's really, really, really flawed. It looks bad. The performances are bad. The story's stupid as fuck.
I hate the poster. I hate the fucking poster already, Dave. The first thing I've clicked on is Google image search at the very top, and it's the poster for the movie with Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale on the front, just looking ridiculous. What the fuck are you wearing? What is the costuming here? Look at the graphic design of this. Look at the font.
Now,
awful.
Again, this is an absolute guilty pleasure, Sam. This isn't a good movie, right? It's not. I'm not. There is absolutely no foundation for me to say this is a good movie. I haven't seen it in a few years. I will. There's a caveat there.
It's
which is
on
why
Netflix.
We're going to watch it.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. I've already checked. It's not that long, I don't think. Oh no, it is. It's over 2 hours. Again, it's not perfect. It's long. It's over 2 hours.
24% Rotten Tomatoes.
But it's doing something, I think, that, again, it's really flawed, and I'm interested to talk to you about it on the podcast. But it's kind of doing something new in a way. It's using a lot of CG animation. It's kind of blending the Universal Monsters tropes together. It's quite like an early Hugh Jackman starring role. Again, Sam, it's a guilty pleasure. I know this isn't a good movie.
I know, and you're entitled to that.
I just enjoy the jaunt. And again, I haven't watched it in a few years, and maybe we'll watch it and I'll be like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Or what was wrong with my brain in my 20s where I genuinely enjoyed this movie?
Well, plenty.
But of all the things I thought of, when I thought about guilty pleasure, and this is what I was talking about, guilty is the capitalized part of that sentence. Guilty pleasure, because if I was talking to, and I am on the internet talking to everyone, and you as well, but if I was talking to like somebody I sort of knew who I wanted to have a high opinion of me about movies, I absolutely would not mention that.
You would not say, you would not say. I think that that gets to the real, and I'm not quite sure I've identified that in our discussion just now. I'm not sure for me.
Out some other examples. Con Air, I suppose you could actually say. Any Nick Cage movie, actually.
Con Air was there, but then I think it might be good. I think it might be good, maybe in the context of 90s action movies. That is a kind of bubble. There's a lot of movies in there. Yeah. I think, like The Rock is a good movie.
Red October. Like, there's lots of movies that are bad in certain ways.
Yeah.
But I couldn't think of anything as universally bad as Van Helsing.
I think there's a class of
I enjoyed.
Yeah, there's a class of guilty pleasures, and then right next to that is like boring World War II movies for dads. Do you know what I mean? Which I do love. And then you might have next.
Wait. Nick Cage, Wind Talkers.
Wind Talkers. I've never heard
Wind
of
Talkers. Is that a Nick Cage World War II movie where it's a code breaking movie?
Oh, that looks great. Let's do that. This looks brilliant. I can't imagine this is bad at all.
Have I got the name right?
2002.
Wow.
Nick Cage, Wind Talkers, 32% Rotten Tomatoes.
I think you'll love this movie.
Directed by
I think
John
we
Woo.
should put this on the list with Van Helsing because I'd really like to revisit this. And again, I think Nick Cage is the king of guilty pleasure movies because so many of his movies are unequivocally bad.
It grossed 77 million on 115 budget, and presumably even more with marketing. So definitely.
Whereas Van Helsing made Fat Bank.
Yeah, that would be a good one to do. That would be good to do. What we need to do is remember all these movies, and so we're going to have to listen back to note all these down because I haven't been doing that. But I think it does show that there are a real bank of movies that we could get into that are fun to talk about, because that's what we've found after doing this for 300 plus episodes, is that the good movies that we really like, we can get into enthusiastic, but actually it's more fun to talk about shit movies. And I think probably every single movie on this list we could have a good conversation about if we haven't had.
I think
already.
It's more fun to talk about both.
Yes, but we got to have the bad
important,
to have
Sam.
the good.
That's why we haven't just derailed the podcast to do all the best pictures, because we would.
What about? And it's an episode I believe we've done before. 1996, Space Truckers.
I fucking love that movie. It's so
I know,
yeah,
I love it too, but that's a terrible movie. It's terribly made. It's terribly acted. It's stupid as all sin, and
it's part of the Team Wolf conundrum, which is it's a scientific term for this one thing that happened to it. Sometimes you want a bad movie. Sometimes you don't want to watch Oppenheimer. Sometimes you don't want to watch
Worthy.
There Will Be Blood. Sometimes you don't want to watch a movie that's going to challenge you and make you think and be what? Sometimes you just want something schlocky, something that's really bad. Here's another one, Teen Witch.
You want Charles Dance
on Prime.
Being as evil as possible. There's the only thing that it will demand. And no, that's not Game of Thrones. That is Space
Last
Truckers.
Action Hero.
Last Action Hero. Yeah. Does that count?
That is a bad movie. But I think Space Truckers is a B. Space Truckers is a B movie, inexplicably starring. Who's the star of that?
Dennis Hopper.
Inexplicably, that is a B. It's a C movie starring Dennis Hopper.
Somehow.
It's got the production value, Sam, of like a mid-90s porno.
Yeah.
And somehow
the
it's
square hogs, though. I love the square hogs in that movie.
I fucking love that movie. Yeah, that's probably the best example of a movie we've done that's a guilty pleasure, because I probably would watch half an hour of that. I don't know that I want to sit and watch the whole thing again, but I'd sit and watch half an hour. Although Debbie Mazar, outfit, I mean, maybe I would watch. Maybe I would watch 42 seconds of that. Not Why 42 seconds? Answer that question for yourself.
Well, there's. We're in the
And that's
depths.
a joke you'll only get if you've seen Space Truckers.
Yes, we are in the mud now. we are in the mud now. Well, I think that's a good. So what we need to do then, we need to compile this list, and I think we could have a little bit, a mini series of guilty pleasures, and just go into the detail of why these movies are so bad and why we love them, and that could be some potential future content. I'm excited. I'm excited by this prospect. I think this is a good little fun mini exploration we've just had of bad movies. Maybe the listener has their own guilty pleasures, and there could be some
It's important to remember,
suggestions.
Sam, that not all movies are created equally, and there's a lot to enjoy that isn't,
Lord of the
that
Rings.
weren't nominated for Oscars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like Space Truckers, which was robbed.
That year, 1996. Absolutely disgusting. The Academy has no appreciation for square hogs at all.
I've never
Charles
ever,
Dance getting his
right?
dick shot
I have
off.
never
Doesn't
heard
happen?
that movie. I've never heard heard or seen that movie talked about on the internet. I listen to a lot of movie podcasts, and I have never ever heard anyone talk about Space Truckers.
Justice for Space Truckers. That's all I've got to say.
Is it
about
real, or did we make? Was it
that.
was it like a combined fever dream?
It's on the internet, but maybe we were so fever dreamed that we also added a Wikipedia page, added information about the movie, and then made the movie by traveling back to 1996 and making it ourselves.
Maybe Hopper was a real get for us making a movie in 1996.
Yeah, well, exactly. Time travel and the threat of wiping out someone's existence by going back and killing their parents is maybe the only way that we could have got Dennis Hopper to do that movie. Is what
And
I'm
I
thinking.
think the story you've just laid out is actually somehow more engaging and well thought out than the story of Space Truckers.
Wow. A bit like that Fanboys movie where we could make a movie about
That's a movie
traveling.
we should do.
Yeah, it's probably not as good as you think it is. We could make a movie about travel back in time to make sure that Space Truckers is made by, in fact, making it. I think that's
To
a great
prevent
idea.
World War III, yeah, I got you. Got it somehow.
Yeah, good, excellent. We've got it sorted. Brilliant. All right,
Dennis
well,
Hopper's finest performance. I'm glad we can agree on that.
That's what we can.
I can't think of a single other movie that Dennis Hopper made that was worth
Dennis
it.
who? Nah, never heard of it. Right, well, there we go. That's the end of this Ramblecast, and we'll be back with something else next time. Bye, Dave.
Bye, Sam.